Hi, my name is Brett Simpson, and I'm going to take you through the basics of the Enneagram. So for this presentation, the reporting that I use, as well as the descriptions, comes from Integrative Enneagram Solutions. The word Enneagram is ancient Greek. Ennea means 9, and gram means the written or spoken word. And essentially, it is a 9-type archetype system. So just like using metaphor for king being the leader in a kingdom, or the queen being the feminine aspect of that leadership, or the joker being a different archetype altogether, this is merely an archetypal system. It is not a box. It is essentially a reflection of the box, and as challenging as this might be, of how you've created your personality or your personal reality or the way that you look at life, and gives you the guide or the wisdom or the way out of a one-dimensional aspect of who you are. Firstly, in accepting the person that you are and you've created yourself to be, and also helping you integrate into the full aspect of who you are. So not only your primary archetype, but also utilizing all the other types. It's essentially how you think, how you feel, and how you act. It is motivation and not behavior. It's your core spirit and your core fear. And if you were to take your glasses off, it would be to take a look at those glasses and see how you look at the world. So where the Enneagram really becomes powerful is that if you look at this image that I've got of a iceberg, so 1/6 of an iceberg sits on the top and 5/6 sits below. So what we do, essentially observable by other people in our lives, is what's on the top of the iceberg, and that's essentially the words, the actions, body language, what is visible. But where the Enneagram really differentiates itself from other personality profiles is that it's your motivation. It's what sits below that. It's the 5/6 that sit behind. It's the perceptions, it's attitudes, it's beliefs, it's our dreams, it's our fears, it's our memories. It's how our subconscious mind influences our conscious behavior and who we show up as. And then the value of the Enneagram. So, just to personalize this properly, the Enneagram has really helped me understand who I am. I discovered it in 2015, and it literally has changed my stars, my path in life, and how I show up. Because it's given me permission, and this is the interesting part, to really accept myself for the good and the challenges, and how the language that I like to use is the superpowers and the growth areas, because strengths and weaknesses can be very challenging for most people. We have different ways of perceiving different words, hence me using superpower and growth areas. What it's really done for me is it's helped me be very clear in where my skill set is, and very clear where my strengths lie and how to utilize those in my work and in my personal relationships to be able to be the best version of myself that I possibly can be, and to own my strength. On the other side of the coin, because each coin, strengths, weaknesses, light, dark, hot, cold, there's always this other aspect. And that is the aspect of myself that I've struggled with. It's very easy for me to acknowledge those, but it's been very um, insightful and powerful to be able to frame it within the Enneagram, in that it's an area to bring compassion, it's an area to bring understanding, it's an area to bring insight, and it's an area to bring um, a little bit more care into, because the more care we bring into our shadow or our weaknesses or our growth areas, the more that they will change, in my experience within my coaching practice. So it's really given me an insight into understanding who I am, the strengths of my personality, how to optimize those, and how to be a lot more careful, thoughtful, kind, compassionate, and empathetic around the aspects of myself that I might struggle with or be perceived as my weaknesses. Where it really helps in the business world, which is really powerful, is that it brings this level of empathy and understanding into relationships. So you often find in work environments and in life itself, when you have relationships where one person just doesn't see the world the way that the other person does, and there is judgments against behavior and attitudes and intention and a difficulty that comes into relationships. The beauty of the Enneagram helps people understand both the strengths, so where they can hand over some level of responsibility, accountability, or leadership to a person, but also where there is an aspect of somebody that they clearly, because of their Enneagram, there is a sore spot there, there's a pain point there, and there's an aspect that that person might struggle with. And because of that, they might have poor behavior that comes out of that. And the Enneagram gives you insight into the general themes within each Enneagram type, the pain points in general. So when somebody's behaving poorly or their behavior is pissing you off, the Enneagram really gives you an ability to be able to see that person as a whole human being with strengths and weaknesses. That is, with again, this insight of the Enneagram is just to help you understand what this person struggles with. And when you understand the motivation behind it, the behavior is largely less upsetting than it was before. So what I often find in relationships, especially in the work environment, and I've had this many times in workshops that I've been working in, is that we'll do the Enneagram of two people who might be having a struggling relationship with one another. And at some point, the one person looks at the other person and goes, "You're not being an idiot. You're just being yourself with the challenges that you face within your own personality and the challenges that you face within your life, which are rooted obviously in your past." And it brings so much empathy and understanding, which brings engagement and communication. And interestingly enough, if you look at the Gallup studies, at Harvard Business Review, at a number of these human dynamic and human resource sort of intelligence around psychology and how people show up and why they show up the way that they do, there's a line that can be drawn straight from a person is engaged, understanding of one another within a team environment, and you can actually lead it to up to 30% improvement in sales. So for the accountants, for the MDs, that's where the value of the human relationship really kind of comes in. And it's around intention rather than behavior. Again, it brings compassion into work environments and personal relationships. It helps people really attach to and step into their strength, which in my experience as a coach, is often the most difficult thing to get people to see, is to really get to see their strength and to step into that. Most people can really own their weaknesses or their growth areas. And it brings the subconscious conscious to be explored, to be worked through, and something happens with just the mere awareness. Change, in my experience, happens 90% of the battle is the awareness of who we are as people and what motivates our behavior. And in a lot of the work that I do with businesses, it's around helping people manage stress, because an Enneagram 8 and an Enneagram 2 will operate in a stressful environment and react to different stresses in a very different way. So they need different ways of support. Right. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take you through each Enneagram type, and just give you a summary in essence, and then hopefully connect it to a celebrity or somebody famous within the public eye, so that you can understand what this might look like. So the strict perfectionist, if you look in the picture that is on the screen currently, you've got peas nice in order and equidistant away from each other and then in nice lines. That's the happy place for one Enneagram. They have strong values, they're conscientious, perfectionists, they like the things done correctly, very idealistic. They have a lot of emphasis around self-control and high integrity. My father's got a very strong one, and I go to him when I'm struggling with, is this, am I in line with my integrity when I'm doing this? And that's one of the real strengths and the beauties of the Enneagram 1. If you look at Nelson Mandela, the reason why he stayed in jail when apparently on year about 25, when he was in Paarl, under house arrest, the National Party, which was the government at the time, actually approached him and said to him that he can leave prison, but there were some conditions, and a couple of those conditions were that no international media, no local media, and he basically told them where to go, to get off. Because his argument was he didn't sacrifice the best years of his life, all of his family relationships, all of 27 years that he was in prison, in order to compromise on his value. And that's the beauty of the Enneagram 1. It's that uncompromising idealism, and that, like, this is right and this is wrong, that black and white. There is usually less shades of gray in the important aspects of the Enneagram 1. Brene Brown is a great one as well. Michelle Obama, very powerful woman. And it's around doing things correctly and doing things right. The challenge with the 1, however, is that the expectation of themselves is there, but this is what's humanly possible. So they need to give themselves a little bit of grace between what they can actually achieve and what they expect from themselves. So when they're in a high level of stress, they are very judgmental on themselves, and then they become judgmental on other people. And when a 1 Enneagram is in stress, they're also, you can see, this is wrong, that's wrong, you're doing this wrong, that's wrong. And essentially the growth of the 1 is to color outside the lines. It's to have a little bit more gray in their black and white world. It's to seek joy, allow joy, and permit themselves to really relish in bliss and joy and all the good feelings, because they can obviously take themselves quite seriously. Next up, we've got the Enneagram 2. These are the considerate helpers. They are generous, they are warm, they are friendly, interactive. They're those people, when you walk into a business and you walk into a home, they just have this warmth and this kindness and this compassion and this openness and this generosity. They are the glue that connects families. They are the glue that connects people. They are exceptionally good in the marketing department and client-facing, people-facing. So HR, these are the masters in that realm. They have an unbelievable ability to understand what somebody else's needs are before that person even understands it themselves. So my wife is an Enneagram 2, and she is incredibly caring and nurturing around fulfilling my needs. They're that typical mother carer sort of energy. If you look at the famous people associated, you've got Desmond Tutu, you've got Dolly Parton, they've got Mother Teresa. These are very, very selfless people. When they're in their power and they're supporting themselves, and that's the growth for the 1, is growth for the 2, sorry. It's to nurture and nourish themselves so they have a lot to give, so they can use their superpower of actually serving other people in a way that is not connected to a need for, I will give you if you give me, sort of a relationship. So when they can actually fill their own cup and ask themselves what they need and start fulfilling that and use their voice to ask people and ask the world and ask life and ask employees to give them what they need, they become unbelievably powerful at serving humanity and serving teams and serving a family. Very powerful people, but the growth is to support themselves. Otherwise, they can unconsciously manipulate other people in order to get those people to support them. Instead of using their voice, they will just fulfill their needs in order for, as a condition, that that person then serves them. The easiest way around that is for them to ask the question of what they need so that they can serve other people very powerfully. Enneagram 3, the competitive achiever. Very ambitious, very good at accomplishing things. They like to-do lists. They're very focused. They're competitive not only with other people, but very much within themselves. They're incredibly adaptive, task-orientated. If you look at Oprah Winfrey, Lance Armstrong, and Beyonce, these people use their image in the world to put what they want to see in the world into the world. So Oprah Winfrey is very, she uses her profile very powerfully. So her show was called the Oprah Winfrey Show. Her holding company is called Harpo, which is her name backwards. Her magazine has her face on it or her figure on it every single month. It has no one else. Oprah very cleverly and very effectively uses her image to put what she wants into the world, and very beautiful, and does it in a beautiful way. Lance Armstrong, this is obviously you get people in all the different Enneagrams that might have integrity and others that don't. So this is not exclusive to the Enneagram 3, but Lance Armstrong really epitomizes the strength of seeking success and the chasing of that no matter what. He compromised his integrity by lying and cheating, although he was still the best cyclist of the time, drugs or no drugs. But no matter how you might see him, he really epitomized, and he held that actually quite beautifully around achieving, around after getting testicular cancer and then going and doing these amazing things and inspiring people. And that's where the gift really is of the Enneagram 3. One of the other gifts is being able to meet somebody where they are. So the King of England, they can speak to them and get them into their level of intellect and understanding, and they can speak to somebody who's on the street, somebody who's living on the street, and they can really connect with them. So they have this amazing ability to really understand people very, very quickly. So they make great business development, great salespeople in a business, and they embody success. So if they're driving a car, it embodies what their version of success is: clothing, appearance, products. They're really orientated, and it's not just on the negative ego that might be perceived as, but also just projecting who they are by how they show themselves in the world and what they like and what they are chasing. Then you have the Enneagram 4s. So these are known as the intense creatives. My greatest example here is Johnny Depp. He doesn't pretend to be Jack Sparrow in the Pirates of the Caribbean. He actually becomes that role. So these people are very sensitive, very emotional, very creative, very intense, very deep. They not only love the highs of life, they also love the lows. They love the depth and the breadth of all of the emotion. They are the reason why our world is beautiful. They're the reason why we get taken by movies and music, and it takes us on this massive, amazing journey. The reason why art inspires us, it's because of the falls within all of us and within the world. They need to be seen as unique. A really challenging perspective given to a 4 would be normal. They want to be seen as different and special and unique, and what gives them creativity. They use a lot of intensity of their emotion in order to feed the creative expression, be it artistry, be it music, be it architecture, be it whatever they are creative in. Their challenge is separating their emotions from their decision making. So it's breathing space in between their emotional lives and the decisions that they make that are aligned to their values and the things that they want, because often the 4s really struggle to differentiate their decision making from within their emotions to without their emotions. And that is a difficult aspect for the 4s to do, but incredibly creative, very unique, and they see the world quite differently, and they like to be seen as unique and different as well. And they are the reason why the world has this beauty in it. Like if you look at an iPhone and Steve Jobs, its design aesthetic is absolutely stunning, and it is the leader in that space, or has been for the last 10, 15 years, because of that design aesthetic as well, not just because of the technology. The quiet specialists, these are shy, detached. These are the smartest people in the room, as I like to say. Jane Austen, Albert Einstein, Stephen Hawking, very, very much in the mind, very cerebral, very innovative, very deep thinkers. They often need a lot of space, so they seem quite introverted because they like to process things in their mind. Very, very curious people. They like to learn new skills, new technologies, embrace new things, and they love going down the rabbit holes. It is their greatest gift. I've seen it so many times that 5s, when they are quiet during the course of a meeting, and then at the end they'll say something and it'll shut the room down, because you can see they've paid attention, they've synthesized the information, and they've come up with a succinct wisdom at the end of a meeting. Very, very powerful people. They need the space, they need the time to think, and they also need to get out of their heads. So when I work with 5s, really important, I have a little bit of a condition with them, and that they must exercise. Doesn't matter what the exercise is, because exercise gets them out of here and into their bodies, and then they're able to process and breathe some space within their mind, and they'll also be able to understand what their feelings are trying to tell them and use that information as data points to actually integrate into their powerful intellect. Very powerful people, but they have to be very careful of the overthinking, because they can get stuck in a little bit of a cyclone of thinking the same thought and then questioning and then going in deeper and deeper and deeper, which pulls them away from people. And leaning into socializing, leaning into relationships is really, really also powerful for a 5. Then you get the 6s, the loyal skeptic. They're known in Integrative Enneagram Solutions profile. They are the problem solvers, the masters of those. If you look at Elon Musk, what do all of his projects and businesses have in common? They all solve big problems. So Tesla, Solar City, and even SpaceX, if we mess this planet up, at least we can become an interplanetary species. So incredibly powerful problem solvers, really misunderstood in business. Well, often misunderstood, but maybe not really. Obviously, that's contextual. But these people are really the people that you want in a team when you're solving problems. So when COVID came along, these are the people that were like, I knew something like this was going to happen. I've got everything saved up. I've got my toilet paper. They have this ability to be able to see things that can go wrong. And when they're in a bad place or stressed, that's where their focus is. But when they're in a good place, they are solving these problems like a boss. And at the moment in the world where we are, these are the people that are really needing to put their voices into the room, and not just the optimists and the fun-loving future focus and everything's going to be all right. But these are the grounded people that really goes, we have to solve these problems in order to get to the fun, awesome future that we're going into. My not condition, but my invitation, let's say a strong invitation to work with Enneagram 6s in my coaching practice, is for them to do some level of gratitude practice, because this really helps them in understanding or shifting the belief from everything can go wrong to everything can go right, and balancing that out nicely, because often when they're in a bad place, everything's going wrong. So they're very skeptical. They're the cautious ones. They're the responsible ones. Very powerful and needed in the business world. They make really good organizational strategists. So how do we get from the business from here to here? The 6s can really help us see the problems and challenges that we need to kind of get plan A, plan B, plan C, plan E. Really powerful people. Then you've got the enthusiastic visionaries. These are the optimists, the spontaneous, fun-loving, entrepreneurial, future-focused. They have an amazing ability to be able to zoom out and see where a business can go, or to see where an opportunity is going to be. And they can kind of look like an eagle going, oh, okay, cool, there's an opportunity. Let's take advantage of that. They are always chasing the joy. Cameron Diaz, John F. Kennedy, Russell Brand. Ordinarily, the 7s are very much future focused, very much optimistic. Their challenge and their growth is to actually become a little bit more grounded and to connect with what is, and to do the routine things or the boring things that are sustainable in life, like doing your paperwork and the routines in the morning, like doing a little bit of meditation and locking that in, because the 7 intuitively want to go into new experiences all the time and not do anything twice. So their growth is grounding. It's to keep their feet grounded on the earth and being able to zoom out at the same time. So they're both having that ability to zoom out and have that high perspective, but also being grounded in where things are needed, overcoming problems. So the 6 and the 7 actually really support one each other, and they challenge each other a lot, but they really support each other. And that's the 7s. And one of the challenges of the 7 is that they're chasing the joy for a reason. They're avoiding the pain of something that might have happened in the past, or a bad breakup, or something. So they essentially are the king and queens of rebounding. So it's like going through grief or something, and instead of sitting in it and working through it, they typically are moving towards something that excites them, something that is joyful, that gets them away from the difficult feelings. So another part of the growth of the 7s is working through difficult feelings, allowing themselves to explore challenging aspects of their past. Therapy is typically a very good thing. Meditation is very good. Breath work, cold water immersions, things like that are really nice grounding for the 7s, but really optimistic, very lovely to be around, a very excitable energy. 8 Enneagram, active controllers. Very strong, take charge, very powerful, can be quite bullish, confrontational. And what I used to struggle with was that they speak truth very quickly. I used to affectionately call them the foot in mouth brigade, because what essentially is in their head comes out of their mouths without the filter. Used to struggle with this because I'm a 9, which I'll get to. But now I absolutely adore it, because you know exactly where you stand with an 8. There's no rubbish, and they're very action orientated. They're not scared of taking responsibility, stepping into control, or taking control of difficult situations, which is both positive and can be negative because they struggle not being in control. They struggle to be led. So their growth is really to show more vulnerability, to be led by other people, and to surrender control, essentially. Very, very beautiful human beings, actually. They look quite gruff on the outside, but they're actually quite gooey and soft on the inside. When you look at their softness, they are very fierce and caring. If you're under the wing of an 8, they will literally kill for you. They do a lot to care for their family, to care for their teams, to care for their companies, and they often hide their sensitivity and their softness because they perceive other people see it as weakness, which is not true. And my encouragement is always today is to show more of their vulnerability. Well or not well, it's really powerful for them to do that, because once people can see the strength balanced with this humility and this softness, there is a lot more trust around leaders, and these make amazing leaders. Lastly, we have the adaptive peacemaker. This is my profile. We're easygoing, we're unassuming, very accommodating, we're very accepting. We're one of those people that most people will come to us and say, oh, it's just such a nice person, so easy to get along with, so accepting. Yes, we are, and it's genuine, but it's also a little bit of a trauma response because we're wanting to avoid conflict. That's our biggest trigger, is we do not want conflict, so we avoid it by being agreeable, and that obviously compromises ourselves. So I've worked my whole life into find my voice and to speak my truth and to hold boundaries and to be firm around the things that are important to me. But I'm exceptionally good at accommodating people. I'm exceptionally good at mediation. I was actually brought into 2 lawyers going at each other, and I was brought in because, I was the right person to be brought into that because I could see all of the pitfalls that could shut down the conversation, and I could avoid those, or I could massage those and walk the 2 of them through a pathway to see one another. And that's the gift of the 9, is being able to stand in different perspectives and to show one another a different way of looking at something or someone or a situation. And we value harmony, we value peace. I'm a peacemaking hippie for sure, at my core. But my growth is to go into conflict, to go into difficulty, but to do it in a very different way, which is showing different perspectives for people who don't see one another. And that's the Enneagram. I hope this has been interesting for you. And if you've got any questions, please contact me at brett@brettwsimpson.com. Thank you.